Welcome back everybody to another episode here on the Monster Bass channel. Thank you all for tuning in to yet another one. My name is Brandon Stoker, and on behalf of Monster Bass, today we're going to be talking about how to fish a shaky head. So stay tuned for that, guys. We're going to go through everything that you basically need to know about fishing a shaky head. Like I said, guys, we're going over the good old shaky head. Thank you all once again for tuning in. If you like this type of content, guys, before we start the video, if you like this type of content, you like tips and tricks videos, out on the water action, things like that, guys, we do it all here on the Monster Bass channel to help you guys catch your personal best and most importantly have fun out there on the water. So if you haven't already, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more content that comes out for you guys. So I run a channel called Wisconsin Wildman. That'll be linked down below in the description. So if you guys want to see some out on the water action or just, you know, tips, tricks, and things like that, and just a different environment, click over to my channel, check it out, like, subscribe over there. I'd really appreciate it. So like I said, guys, we're talking about the shaky head. So a shaky head is one of those baits where it's one of those baits that's great this time of the year anyway. We're kind of getting into that fall transition, into the fall time fishing basically, and when that water really starts to get cold, a finesse type, you know, strategy is the best. Now this shaky head right here, this is a 1/4 ounce shaky head. Now the reason why I have a 1/4 ounce out is just so you guys can see what this thing looks like. So a shaky head is one of those techniques that is one of my favorite in for finesse situations where you're just not catching fish and you need something more finesse style. That's when I'm going to bust out a shaky head. Here is your shaky head. So as you guys can see, just you can have a little swivel here. That's really nice, and then it's just a little jig head basically with the hook, and it sits, when it hits the bottom, it basically sits like that, and the back of the bait floats up. So it's more of a finesse style baits. Now there's a few different ways you can rig this. You can rig it, I really like the corkscrew style shaky heads just because of the fact that they're super easy to do. You just, you know, screw it on there and then poke it through. Now most commonly with a shaky head, how you're gonna throw this is most of the time you're going to use what's called a trick worm. So a lot of different companies have them. This is just a 13 fishing one, just a finesse style trick worm. But I think it's a pretty common misconception that that's all you can use. So there's Zoom trick worms. There's pretty much every company makes a trick worm. And I'll bust this guy out of here so you guys can see basically what that looks like. But like I said, all companies make these, like they make so many different types of trick worms. But it's a pretty common misconception that that's all you use on a shaky head. There's so many different ones that you can use on a shaky head. So you guys can see just a small finesse style bait. But it works really, really well. This is going to be your most common bait that you're going to see people throw on a shaky head. Now, it's one of my favorites. Trick worm is probably my favorite for a shaky head, just because they work really well. Now you don't, like I said, you don't need 13 fishing stuff. But right here, like we have this big Bite Baits Pro Series here, guys. One of these right here. This is actually one that I throw on a shaky head quite a bit as well because it really doesn't get thrown a whole lot. You'd be surprised. So this thing is kind of a unique looking bait, but look at that sucker, guys. Look at this thing. This thing is just wild, and on a shaky head, this thing looks so unique in the water column, guys, and people don't think to throw this type of stuff on the shaky head. I'm telling you, this is the deal. These things right here, like, I mean, don't get creative with the shaky head. You don't just have to throw a trick worm. One to throw on the shaky head that I throw occasionally. You can really get creative with it. Now you can even fish just your standard stick bait Senko. So I just have a pink one out at the time. That's what was on the table. But a normal Senko is perfect for a shaky head. It's nothing. You don't need anything special for the shaky head. You can do a ton. As you guys can see, I have a ton of different baits on the wall, and I bet you the majority of these I could throw stuff on here for shaky heads. I mean, there's so many, even like a paddle tail or even like smaller craw. I mean, there's so many different things. But I use a trick worm. That's probably my favorite. That's the most common one you're going to see. But like I said, this guy right here is a more finesse style, cool little bait for it. And then you can also throw the stick bait. I've caught a lot of fish off of these two as well. off of the Shaky Head. Now I'm gonna grab one of these trick worms, guys, and I'm gonna show you guys how this rigs up. And then after that, we're gonna go over kind of rod, reel, and line, and basically how you fish this. And then that's pretty much gonna wrap it up. But so you can do this two ways. So a normal one without the corkscrew head for the hook, you're just gonna kind of go through just like a Texas rig. But for the corkscrew one, I'll show you guys how we're gonna rig this up. So we're just going to go right through the corkscrew head. So as you guys can see, I'm threading that on there. So you're gonna wanna just corkscrew that all the way to the head of the bait. So just keep screwing it on there, and you'll get all the way down. You want it snug to the jig head. You want it snug. So as you guys can see, that's sitting nice and snug to the jig head. And then all you're gonna do, you guys can see that, is you're just going to poke this hook through the trick worm, and then just as I always do, I just embed the tip of the hook so that I kind of have this messed up, to be honest with you guys. I need a little more slack in there because I have it quite tight. There you go. So that is how you rig up the Shaky Head, just like that. So that hook's embedded, it's weedless as well, so that works out nice. Now, what makes the Shaky Head so nice is that when this thing is coming on, it's on the bottom, it's just on the bottom, and you're bumping it along the bottom or dragging it on the bottom, and this trick worm is just floating up in the water column like so. So it looks really unique, gives a ton of action. So as this is bumping on the bottom, this is just floating up in the water column, giving it a lot of action. Looks really nice in the water. It's a very good finesse style. Now this is a 1/4 ounce Shaky Head. Most of the time I would probably go with like an 1/8 ounce. That'd be probably most likely what I'm going to throw the majority of the time, is an 1/8 ounce Shaky Head. And as you guys can see, like I said, rigs up really nice, and it's weedless. That's another pro to it. So an 1/8 ounce is probably the Shaky Head weight that I'm going to go with, and then any sort of trick worm or plastic that we went over. So now for rod, reel, and line. So for the rod, guys, typically I use a spinning setup. So I use a medium power fast action spinning setup, or sometimes I'll even go down to like a 1/16 ounce Shaky Head, and I will use a medium light fast action. So if you have a medium light or a medium fast action spinning setup, that's going to be your best for the Shaky Head, because you can really get that out there. You can really make long casts with it. And then for the reel, guys, just any spinning reel will pretty much work for you. And then I like to use 10-pound fluorocarbon. If I'm fishing in dark stained water with the Shaky Head, I will use braid. But if I'm fishing like stained water, I'll use, 10-pound braid to 10-pound fluorocarbon, or even 10-pound braid down to like 6-pound fluorocarbon. But most of the time, 10-pound fluorocarbon or 6-pound fluorocarbon works really well. But the biggest thing is you want a spinning setup, and you want a medium light or a medium fast, because when you're tossing like 1/16 ounce Shaky Heads or 1/8 ounce Shaky Heads, you want something, you need something, you need a spinning setup to basically cast that, because it is so light, and you can make such long casts with those. So spinning setups are definitely the way to go with the Shaky Head. Now, the Shaky Head's great because it's finesse. So basically you're gonna throw it out there, and you're just gonna hop it along the bottom, or you're gonna drag it. So you're either gonna keep your rod tip and just drag pick your rod tip up and drag it along the bottom, or you're gonna just take your rod tip and keep your rod low and just kind of pull it along the bottom. So if you're, dragging by picking up your rod tip, it's going to, kind of pull this bait up. But if you drag it to the side, it's really just going to keep bottom contact the entire time. So this is a finesse style bait. So you're really going to work it slow, and you're gonna finesse those fish into biting. But biggest thing is the rod, guys, making sure that it can toss the weight that you need it to toss. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. The Shaky Head is one of those it's similar to the Ned rig. It's similar to maybe not so much a drop shot, but it's very, very, very similar to the Ned rig. But if you are ever in a pickle where you're just not able to catch fish, consider trying out a Shaky Head. A Shaky Head is a great technique to catch a lot of fish and also catch quality fish. And like I said, guys, don't be picky on the plastic. Switch it up. Try something different. Maybe not use a trick worm. If your buddy's using a trick worm, try using something else. I'm telling you guys, there's a lot of different ways that you can fish, a lot of different plastics that you could fish on the Shaky Head. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.